Michael, welcome back.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate you having us on your show.
Of course, anytime. So you've brought a completely new kind of game to the Hedera ecosystem. But before we get into what makes this game different, I want to get into some of the gameplay. Why did you choose to base Snake Dash off the Nokia game that some of us older H-barbarians remember?
Yeah, so really, it comes down to like a philosophy thing for me, right? I appreciate high fidelity games with crazy graphics and all those, niceties that we have in modern gaming today. But at the same time, I've always felt that it's a little bit backwards, right? And I really feel like what we should kind of focus on when it comes to Web3 gaming is nailing down something that's fun, addicting, and implements things like tokenomics in a novel way. I've said this at a panel before, and I think it was actually a gaming panel. I think I've said some people, and I said, I don't think that the first game that has a billion plus users, or even like 10 million, 20 million users, is going to be one of those Unreal Engine high fidelity games. I think literally it's going to be something like Flappy Bird. It's going to be something like Candy Crush. The graphics aren't going to be great. Actually, they're probably going to be terrible, but they're going to be really fun, and it's going to be so fun that you're going to be going on your commute to train. I'm from New York, so we take the train here to get places, and you're going to see, your mom or somebody else that an older cousin. They're going to be on their phone. They're going to be playing this game because it's easy and it's accessible. So that was kind of part one of the thought process. Part two is actually some inspiration from a tweet that Pluto from Hashpack made. He said, it'd be cool if there was Slither on Hedera as a playable game. And the data created Snake Dash. I was actually supposed to be doing something completely different, but I was getting really frustrated in what I was working on. And I was like, you know what? I have this idea sitting in the back of my mind because of, what Pluto said, and, let me just try it. And I made this game in 3 hours, literally just 3 hours. It's super, super simple, and that's the benefit of making a simple game, is that any indie game developer can do something like this. And I'm not an indie game developer. I really, like, my trade and craft is in fintech and SaaS and like big, web-based products. I don't make games, but I was able to make this one in 3 hours of just messing around with JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. And that's kind of like the beauty of making a game like this, is that you don't need a million, 10 million, 20, $30 million budget to make it. Anyone can make a game like this. And I think that's the best part about it, is that accessibility. I also, partly think we're burning a lot of money trying to make these high fidelity games, when we could be doing something like this at first. Let's nail down the tokenomics, let's nail down the fun part and the addicting part, and then move on and, get grander and bigger. If you look at the gaming industry, that's how it started. It did not start with these high fidelity games.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head. Actually, one of the most popular games we've had so far in the Hedera ecosystem, Slime World, is that kind of easy, fun, addictive game. And I know I was addicted to Slither back in the day off the Nokia phone as well. So, is there any twists though to your version compared to that older version?
A little bit. So with what we did with Snake Dash, is, well, number one is it's inscribed completely on the hash graph as hashnal. That was one of the key points to it. I can actually share my screen and pull this up right now. So it is inscribed completely on the hash graph. So that's one kind of gotcha. The other gotcha is in our version of the snake game, we have a snake that's actually eating ants. And you've got 3 difficulty levels. And when you're going around with these higher difficulty levels, there's actually dynamite on the screen. And the higher difficulty level, the more dynamite actually comes up on the screen. So this is easy mode right now. And you can see there's a little bit of dynamite on the screen right now. It's kind of pretty easy to play. You have your keys on the keyboard that you use to navigate, so it's not that complicated of the game. Now let's say I've just lost 40 points and I want to click restart, and then I want to go and play on a higher difficulty. So let's say I go on hard. There we go. So there's a lot more dynamite on the screen, as you can see. The little red squares with the yellow in the middle, that's dynamite. And you can see how hard it kind of gets as you play.
Sure. Very cool. So you mentioned there, when we talk about these games that are completely on graph or completely on chain, what does that mean? And what are the benefits of a game like that?
Yeah. So what it actually means today is that the entirety of the game is stored on the Hedera consensus service, which in this case, it means the HTML file that's loading in the TierBot's CDN. It means the JavaScript that actually runs and executes the game engine. And it means the CSS that renders and paints it so that it looks interesting and nice. So all of that is combined and inlined in a single file today as a hashnal. And that's kind of what it means. And in terms of the benefits, I think the largest benefit for me that I see with this is you have this game that works as a hashnal and it's powered through the TierBot CDN, which you can't see in the screen share, but the actual link for this game is like tier.bot/API/inscription CDN, and then the topic ID for the game. Because of that, you can inscribe your HTML-based game and send it literally to millions of people within minutes of inscribing the game. You don't need to create an app in the App Store. You don't need to run your own servers to render the game. You don't even need a website. You can just create your game as HTML, inscribe it, and then you can start sending it to people. So where this kind of gets really fun is, with this particular game, we added, it's not just that you can play the game, but you can also mint this game as a hashnal. But more importantly, you can submit a score. So when I go and I click submit score, today it takes you to this TierBot page where you can go and put your score on a leaderboard. But there's no reason why, with a little bit more effort, we couldn't have put this all inside of that same HTML hashnal. So you go to this page, you can take a screenshot of your score, you can even inscribe it if you want the proof to be more solid. And then you click submit, and it actually writes your score to another topic ID on the Hedera consensus service. So now you've got this decentralized game that's running on the Hedera consensus service, and it's rendering all online and all the JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And you've got a leaderboard too that is also decentralized, where anyone can go and submit a score to that leaderboard. As an indie game creator, that's really powerful, because let's say you go and make a game like this and you're trying to make it as frictionless as possible. You don't want the user to have to go and create a wallet or do any of that stuff. That's fine. You could totally do that because you have your game inscribed. You can create a TikTok ad and say, hey, here's this new game that just came out. It's so fun and addicting. And then you can say, hey, we're giving out like $200 or whatever to the person who gets the highest score on this game. So through your ad, you take them to the game, they play it, and if they want a chance to go and win that $200, at that point, then you could go and prompt them to go make a wallet, because now they've got that incentive. You're not asking them to create a wallet for no reason in advance of the game. You get them to do that once they're incentivized, like, okay, I'm good at this game, I think I can actually win this prize, and then go and make a wallet and put a little bit of HBAR in so that I can submit to the topic ID. Or if you want to improve the user experience even more, you can maybe give them a little bit of HBAR, because the cost to submit to a topic ID is like 0.0001 cents, right? It wouldn't be that much to go and airdrop these users that HBAR for free so that they can go and submit to the leaderboard. But with those kinds of experiences, it opens up the door to all of these indie game developers who I think previously didn't really have that outlet to build a Web3 game, and now they can. They can get users by creating these games, offering incentives for winning prizes, and they can use that as, I think, a stepping stone, at the very least, to create engagement for their own ecosystem, build a following of some sort. And, once you've done that, go and eventually get somebody to actually pay for this game that you're creating.
I think is a really good strategy. So, Michael, what are the first steps that somebody would need to take to get involved with something like this?
Yeah. So when it comes to inscribing, anybody can go and do it. I'll actually go and show you the inscription portal. So on my end, what I didn't mention earlier is that this hashinal is a dynamic hashinal, which means that you can actually change the versions of it at any time and have it update and load in different dApps when you've got that new version available. One of the benefits of dynamic hashinals versus regular hashinals is that it actually keeps historic versions. And this is a flavor of dynamic NFTs that I don't think has been done anywhere, like in any blockchain that I've heard of personally, where every time you go and update your metadata, let's say you start with version 1, you can make a new version of your game, and that's your version 2, and then you can have a version 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. The latest sequence number will always be your current version. But a dApp could go and say, oh, these are all the different versions of your game, and then you can kind of display that inside of the dApp. So let's say somebody wants to play a previous version of it, they can go and do that. So as an indie game developer, I think that is kind of really powerful, having that flexibility. Or if you're thinking about it from the actual in-game assets perspective, and you give somebody a character that they level up in the game, and then you store those changes. As a game developer, you can go and at any time, basically in real time, update the metadata. And let's say you're battling a snake or whatever, and you get some experience points, and you want to reflect that in metadata. So you can go and inscribe in real time, and it's super duper cheap because it's the Hedera consensus service, and you're just updating the JSON metadata, most likely. So historically, you'd be able to show like over a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks that the experience points or health, whatever, had gone up in time, and a dApp can go and display that. And then in the secondary market, if you're a buyer, you might be more interested in buying a character that has leveled up quite quickly, because you might relate that into like, oh, that character was built up by like a professional gamer or somebody who's really good at this, so it feels more valuable to me. So through the versioning system, you get all kinds of flexibility. Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent. But as a user, you can go and inscribe all of this content, these games, through the TierBot inscription portal. This is a live view of the Snake Dash inscription, which I had done from my account. And you can see down here, this is the version that I was talking about. So this is actually version 7. And inside the game, you have a image that kind of shows up in your wallet. So this is the Snake Dash image, the hashinal trail. And then inside of that, you also have the HTML file, which is the playable game asset. So you would just copy this topic ID and you would send it to your users so that they can go and play the game. So the whole process, actually inscribing the game, is really, really easy as well. So I'm going to switch my share screen over here. So this is the homepage of the TierBot inscription portal. And within the inscription portal, you have two kind of options of what kind of NFT you're going to inscribe. So you can inscribe a immutable hashinal or a dynamic hashinal. Maybe for your game, you don't want it to change, so you can make it immutable. I think in most cases with games, you might want to just do a dynamic hashinal, just so you have that flexibility of changing over time. Then you would drop in like your primary image over here that would reflect your game in some capacity, and you could come down here and actually generate the metadata for your game. So I would call it some game and some description over here, and then I can put the attributes. So I would say version 1, let's say it's version 1. And then I can also include secondary files. So inside of the TierBot inscription portal, it should really feel really intuitive, kind of like Dropbox. That's what we're going for. So if you've inscribed things before, you can just select from your previous inscriptions, and then you can find them here. I can see the HTML file is here, and then I would just pop it in, and I can see that it's loaded. That's my preview. And then I could just call it HTML game. And I put in a description. I hit save JSON, and then I go ahead and I click begin inscription process. that whole thing for a user should probably cost, I don't know if it's a basic HTML game like Snake Dash, 3 HBAR at most to go and create a game that you can go and send to millions of people. And then it'll cost about the same much every time you go and update the game. So as a game developer, it's extremely cheap, affordable, and fast. If we were talking about doing the same thing on like Bitcoin, even uploading a megabyte of data on Bitcoin would cost you a couple $1,000s. But on Hedera, you're talking about creating a game for like less than 50 cents. It's just kind of incredible if you think about how that works.
Well, Michael, I love this concept. I hope you build some new features into it as well. I can't wait to see what other people do building on this same concept. Thank you so much for coming on today and explaining it, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Brandon.
I'm now posting these interviews of Hedera builders independently to my channel. The community, influencers, and media outlets are free to use this content to spread the word on what's being built on Hedera. Once they're all uploaded, you'll be able to go to my channel and search for whatever topic or team you're interested in to find more information. Or you'll be able to get the most recent Hedera news by watching the latest HBAR Weekly Update, so check them out.